It was a cloudy Tuesday afternoon in Millville, Pennsylvania. A small McDonald's restaurant on Route 15 was having its usual mid-afternoon lull. Only a few customers sat scattered among the plastic tables, quietly eating their meals. Maria Gonzalez wiped down the counter for the third time that hour. The 19-year-old community college student had been working the cash register for nearly 6 months now. Every dollar she earned went toward her nursing degree. With her father recently laid off from the steel plant, her part-time job had become essential for her family. 2 more hours, she whispered to herself, glancing at the clock above the French fry station. The bell above the door chimed. Maria looked up and froze. A group of men in dark suits entered the restaurant, scanning the area with serious expressions. Behind them walked a man whose face was instantly recognizable to anyone in America. Former President Donald Trump, now back in office for just over a month, stood in the middle of the McDonald's, looking around with curious eyes. "Sir, we really should have used the drive-thru," one of the Secret Service agents said quietly. "Nonsense," Trump replied, waving his hand dismissively. "I told you, I want to talk to real Americans. You can't do that through a speaker box." Maria's co-workers peeked out from the kitchen area, their eyes wide with shock. A few customers in the restaurant pulled out their phones, some taking pictures while others made quick calls. Trump approached the counter with confident steps. He smiled at Maria, who stood frozen, her hands clutching the edges of her uniform. "Good afternoon, young lady," he said, glancing up at the menu board. "I think I'll have a quarter pounder with cheese, large fries, and a Diet Coke." Maria blinked twice, then remembered her training. Would you like to make that a meal, sir?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, that sounds perfect," Trump nodded. As Maria entered the order into the register, her manager, Tom, rushed out from the back office. He hurried to the counter, his face flushed with excitement. "Mr. President, it's an honor to have you visit our restaurant," Tom said, extending his hand. Trump shook it firmly. "You have a nice place here, very clean." Maria found her voice again. "That will be $8.49, sir." Trump reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a leather wallet. He opened it and, after a moment of searching, produced a crisp $2 bill. "Do you know that these are quite rare now?" he asked, handing her the bill. "I've carried this one for luck since the 1980s. Thought today might be a good day to finally spend it." Maria stared at the unusual bill. In all her months working the register, she had never seen a customer use a $2 bill. She carefully took it, examining the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front. "I'll need $6.49 more, sir," she said politely. Trump laughed and handed her a $10 bill. "Keep the change, Maria," he said, noticing her name tag. As Maria counted out his change, she noticed a small photo pinned inside his wallet. It looked like a family picture from many years ago. "Is that your family?" she asked without thinking, then immediately regretted her boldness. Instead of being offended, Trump's expression softened. He glanced down at the photo. "Yes, from a long time ago. Family is everything, isn't it?" Maria nodded, thinking of her own family's struggles. "Yes, sir, it really is." Little did Maria know that this simple exchange, a hungry president, a rare $2 bill, and a brief moment of human connection, would set in motion a chain of events that would change her life forever. Maria held the $2 bill between her fingers, examining it carefully. She had heard about these bills but had never actually seen one in person. The portrait of Thomas Jefferson stared back at her as she turned it over to see the image of the signing of the Declaration of Independence on the back. "Is this real money?" she asked, her cheeks turning pink with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, I just never seen one before." Trump smiled. "Absolutely real. The government still prints them, but not many. Most people keep them as collector's items now." He leaned against the counter casually, seemingly in no hurry despite his security team's obvious discomfort with the unplanned stop. Tom, the manager, quickly stepped in. "I can take that, Maria. We don't see $2 bills often, but they're definitely legal tender." The other McDonald's employees had gathered near the drive-thru window, watching the scene unfold. Customers were now openly recording the interaction on their phones. "No, let her handle it," Trump said to Tom. "It's good for young people to learn about different types of currency. Did you know the $2 bill was first printed in 1862? he asked Maria. No, sir, Maria replied, carefully placing the bill in a separate section of her cash drawer. She wasn't sure if she should handle it like normal money. I've carried that particular bill for decades, Trump continued. Someone gave it to me when I was just starting in business. Told me it would bring good fortune. Maria handed him his change and receipt. It seems like it worked for you, sir. Trump laughed. Maybe so. As she gathered his meal, Maria noticed her hands were shaking slightly. She took a deep breath to steady herself. This was certainly not how she expected her Tuesday afternoon shift to go. Order number 47, she called out, even though it was obvious who the food was for. Trump took the tray and thanked her. As he turned to find a seat, Maria noticed something fall from his pocket, a small, worn business card. She quickly reached for it. Sir, you dropped this, she said, holding out the card. Trump turned back and looked at the card in her hand. For a moment, his confident expression changed to something more reflective. He took the card, looking at it with a hint of nostalgia. Thank you, this was my father's, he said quietly. One of his first business cards. I always keep it with me. Maria nodded, suddenly seeing a more human side to the powerful figure standing before her. My father gave me his first paycheck stub when I started working. Said it would remind me that hard work pays off. Smart man, your father, Trump replied. He was laid off last month, Maria said before she could stop herself, from the steel plant, after 20 years. Trump's expression changed again. He studied Maria's face for a moment, seeming to consider something. What's your name again? He asked, though he had read her name tag earlier. Maria Gonzalez, sir. And your father's name? Carlos Gonzalez. Trump nodded, as if making a mental note. Well, Maria, thank you for the excellent service. He moved to a corner table where his security team had already cleared the surrounding areas. Customers kept a respectful distance but continued to take photos and videos. Maria returned to her position at the register, still somewhat in shock from the encounter. The $2 bill sat in her cash drawer, separated from the other bills. She wondered what would happen to it when she counted her drawer at the end of her shift. She had no idea that the bill would soon become the center of a story that would spread far beyond the walls of this small-town McDonald's. And she certainly couldn't imagine how her brief mention of her father's situation would set in motion events that would change the Gonzalez family's future completely. Trump sat in the corner booth, surrounded by his security detail. Despite their attempts to maintain a protective bubble around him, customers occasionally approached for handshakes or selfies. He obliged each request with practiced ease, taking small bites of his quarter-pounder between interactions. Maria tried to focus on serving other customers, but her eyes kept drifting to the presidential party. She noticed how Trump seemed genuinely interested in the people he met, asking them questions about their lives and work. Earth to Maria, whispered her coworker, Jenny, nudging her arm. Table 7 needs cleaning. Maria snapped back to attention. Sorry, I got distracted. We all are, Jenny replied with a grin. It's not every day a president eats here. As Maria wiped down the empty table, she couldn't help overhearing snippets of Trump's conversations with locals. He asked about the steel plant, the one where her father had worked, and how the town was coping with the layoffs. When she returned to the counter, she was surprised to see Trump standing there again, empty tray in hand. The food was very good, he said, placing his tray on the counter. Compliments to the chef. Maria smiled. I'll tell the kitchen staff. They'll be happy to hear it. Trump didn't immediately walk away. Instead, he glanced at a small photo tucked into the corner of the register area, a picture of Maria with her parents and younger brother at her high school graduation. Is that your family? He asked. Maria nodded. Yes, from 2 years ago. Before things got. She hesitated, unsure if she should continue. Before the layoffs? Trump finished for her. Yes, Maria admitted. My dad worked at Steel Corp for 20 years. Now he drives for Uber, but it's not enough. My mom cleans houses, and I'm trying to help with college costs. She hadn't meant to share so much, but something about the moment felt safe. Trump studied the photo more carefully. Your father looks like a proud man. He is, Maria said. Too proud sometimes. He won't apply for assistance. Says he'll find another good job soon. Trump was quiet for a moment. What is he good at, besides steelwork? Everything, Maria said, her eyes brightening. He was a supervisor, but he's also amazing with machines. He can fix anything. At home, he built our deck, our fence, even helped with the plumbing. Trump nodded thoughtfully. A man with skills is never truly unemployed, he's just between opportunities. He pulled out his phone and seemed to type a brief note. Maria wasn't sure how to respond. Was this just polite conversation, or was the President of the United States actually interested in her family's situation? Maria, Trump said, lowering his voice slightly. That $2 bill, the one I gave you earlier. Yes, sir. Keep it. Don't put it in the register count. Maria looked confused. But sir, I can't take. It's not a gift, Trump explained. Consider it a loan. When things get better for your family, and they will, pass it along to someone else who needs a bit of luck. Before Maria could respond, one of the Secret Service agents approached. Sir, we need to move on to the next location. We're behind schedule. Trump nodded to the agent, then turned back to Maria. Remember what I said. With that, he headed toward the exit, stopping briefly to shake hands with Tom and thank him for the hospitality. As the presidential motorcade pulled away from the McDonald's, customers and staff gathered at the windows to watch. Maria stood among them, her hand in her pocket, fingers wrapped around the $2 bill. What did he say to you? Jenny asked excitedly. Maria shook her head slightly. Just that things will get better. She had no idea how prophetic those words would prove to be, or that within 24 hours, the simple interaction she'd just experienced would capture the attention of the entire nation. The moment President Trump's motorcade disappeared from view, the McDonald's erupted with excitement. Customers who had captured the interaction on their phones were already uploading videos to social media. The hashtag Trump $2 bills started trending within the hour. Maria, you're famous, Jenny exclaimed, showing her phone screen where a video of Maria accepting the $2 bill had already gained thousands of views. Someone tagged our location and everything. Maria stared at the screen in disbelief. I was just doing my job, she said quietly. Tom, the manager, called everyone for an impromptu meeting. Folks, this is big news for our location. Corporate has already called twice. They want us to handle media requests through proper channels. He turned to Maria. Especially you. Don't talk to reporters without checking with me first. As her shift ended, Maria noticed 3 news vans parked outside. Reporters stood by the entrance, interviewing customers who had witnessed the presidential visit. She slipped out through the back door, hoping to avoid the attention. But as she walked home, her phone buzzed continuously with notifications. Friends and family members had seen the videos. Even her grandmother in Mexico called after seeing the news on television. Is it true? Her mother asked when Maria finally reached their small apartment. The president came to your work. Carlos, Maria's father, sat at the kitchen table, his Uber driver app open on his phone. He hadn't had many ride requests that day. Yes, he did, Maria confirmed, pulling the $2 bill from her pocket. He gave me this and told me to keep it. Her father frowned. You took money from a customer? Maria, that's not right. It wasn't a tip, Papa, she explained. He said it was a loan, that I should pass it on to someone else when things get better for us. Her younger brother Miguel peered at the bill with curiosity. I've never seen one of these before. Is it worth more than $2? To collectors, maybe, Maria said, but I think its real value is different. That night, while her family slept, Maria sat on their small balcony, still holding the bill. Despite her exhaustion, sleep wouldn't come. She had worked at McDonald's for months without anything interesting happening. Now, in a single afternoon, her ordinary life had collided with extraordinary circumstances. Her phone continued to buzz with messages. Some were from friends, but others came from strangers who had somehow found her social media accounts. A few job offers appeared in her inbox, companies hoping to capitalize on her sudden fame. One message particularly caught her eye. From a local news reporter named Sarah Chen, requesting an interview about the human side of the encounter. Maria hesitated. Tom had warned against talking to reporters, but Sarah's message seemed different, more sincere than the others. Before she could decide, her phone rang. The caller ID showed unknown number. Hello? Maria answered cautiously. Is this Maria Gonzalez? A professional female voice asked. Yes, Who is this? My name is Rebecca Winters. I'm calling from the White House Office of Public Engagement. Maria nearly dropped her phone. The White House? Yes, President Trump mentioned your interaction today. He was impressed by your family's situation and work ethic. He's asked us to follow up with you. Maria sat in stunned silence. Are you still there, Maria? The voice asked. Yes, sorry, I'm just surprised. That's understandable. The president would like to know more about your father's skills and work experience. Would it be possible to get that information? Maria glanced through the window at her sleeping father, the man who had worked tirelessly to give his family a better life, now reduced to driving strangers around town for minimal pay. Yes, Maria said, her voice finding new strength. I can tell you everything about my father. He's the hardest working man I know. As she began to share her father's story with the White House representative, Maria had no idea that this late-night phone call would be just the beginning of an extraordinary chain of events. By the next morning, the story had exploded across the nation. Major news networks ran segments showing the grainy cell phone footage of Trump handing Maria the $2 bill. Political commentators debated the significance of the gesture, with some calling it a calculated photo opportunity and others praising it as a moment of genuine connection. Maria woke to find reporters camped outside her apartment building. Her mother peeked through the curtains, shaking her head in disbelief. There must be 20 people down there, she whispered. All for you, Mija. Carlos sat at the kitchen table, staring at his phone. The Uber app was closed. Instead, he was reading news articles about his daughter. I don't understand, he said, his voice a mix of confusion and concern. All this attention because you took an order from the president. Maria placed a hand on her father's shoulder. It's about more than that, Papa. People are connecting with our story. Her phone rang. Tom from McDonald's. Maria, corporate says you don't need to come in today. The restaurant is swamped with people hoping to see you or sit at the table where the president ate. It's crazy. After ending the call, Maria checked her emails. The message count had jumped from dozens to hundreds overnight. One subject line caught her attention. Steel Corp, urgent. With trembling fingers, she opened it. Ms. Gonzalez, I'm Richard Harmon, CEO of Steel Corp. I've become aware of your father's situation through recent media coverage. I'd like to speak with Carlos Gonzalez at his earliest convenience regarding a potential opportunity at our company. Please contact my office to arrange a meeting. Maria read the email 3 times before showing it to her father. Carlos stared at the screen, his expression unreadable. It's probably nothing, he finally said, but Maria could see hope flickering in his eyes. Before they could discuss it further, Maria's phone rang again, the same unknown number from last night. Hello, Maria speaking. Maria, this is Rebecca Winters from the White House again. I hope I'm not calling too early. No, we're all awake, Maria assured her. Good. I've been authorized to inform you that President Trump has taken a personal interest in your family's situation. He's been in contact with several business leaders in Pennsylvania about economic revitalization efforts. Maria held her breath. Additionally, Rebecca continued, the president would like to invite you and your family to a small business roundtable he's hosting in Harrisburg next week. Your father's experience could provide valuable insights. Maria covered the phone and quickly explained to her parents. Her mother clasped her hands together in silent prayer. Carlos stood straighter, adjusting his collar as if preparing for an interview. We would be honored, Maria told Rebecca. After ending the call, the family sat in stunned silence. All because of a $2 bill, Miguel said, breaking the tension. Maria shook her head. No, it's not about the bill. It's about being seen. For once, someone with power actually saw us, our struggles, our work, our worth. Carlos placed his hand over Maria's. Whatever comes from this, I am already proud of you for representing our family with dignity. A notification chimed on Maria's phone. The local news station had published an interview with one of the McDonald's customers who had witnessed the encounter. The headline read, More than fast food, how a presidential visit highlighted the human cost of factory closures. Maria took a deep breath. The $2 bill sat on their kitchen counter, looking ordinary in the morning light. But in less than 24 hours, it had already proven to be anything but ordinary. 3 days after the McDonald's encounter, Carlos Gonzalez sat nervously in the reception area of Steel Corp's main office building. He wore his only suit, freshly pressed by Maria's mother the night before. His hands rested on a worn leather portfolio containing his resume and work certificates. "Mr. Gonzalez," the receptionist called. "Mr. Harmon will see you now." Carlos stood, straightening his tie one final time. The walk to the CEO's office felt longer than his 20 years working on the production floor. Richard Harmon, a tall man with silver hair, rose from behind his desk as Carlos entered. "Mr. Gonzalez, thank you for coming on such short notice." "Thank you for the invitation, sir," Carlos replied, his voice steady despite his nerves. Harmon gestured to a chair. "Please, sit down. I imagine you're wondering why I wanted to meet with you." Carlos nodded. "Yes, sir, I am. To be completely honest, your daughter's encounter with President Trump brought your situation to my attention. But that's not why you're here today." Harmon opened a folder on his desk. "I've been reviewing your employment records with us. 20 years, multiple promotions, perfect attendance for 15 of those years. Your supervisors consistently rated you as exceptional." Carlos remained silent, unsure where this was heading. "What you may not know," Harmon continued, "is that I voted against President Trump in both elections. We don't share the same political views, but when this story broke, I was forced to reflect on some decisions we've made as a company." He leaned forward. "The truth is, the layoffs were probably necessary, but how we determined who to let go was flawed. We focused too much on positions and not enough on people. On paper, eliminating your division made sense. In reality, we lost some of our best talent." Carlos shifted in his seat. "Sir, I don't understand." "I'm creating a new position, Mr. Gonzalez. Director of Operational Excellence. We need someone who knows our processes inside and out, who can identify inefficiencies and implement improvements. Someone respected by the workers and management alike." Carlos's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "And you're offering this position to me?" "Yes," Harmon confirmed. "With a salary 20% higher than your previous one, plus benefits. This isn't charity, and it's not politics, it's good business." Carlos sat stunned, unable to find words. "The layoffs hurt this community," Harmon continued. "I can rehire everyone, but this is a start. We're bringing back 30 positions immediately and planning for more if certain metrics are met." "I don't know what to say," Carlos finally managed. "Say you'll take the job," Harmon replied, extending his hand. "And that you'll start Monday." As Carlos shook the CEO's hand, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from Maria. "How's it going, Papa?" With permission from Harmon, he quickly typed. "I got a job. Better than before. Tell you everything at home." Back at the apartment, Maria read the message aloud to her mother and brother. They cheered and embraced, their financial worries suddenly lightened. Maria pulled out the $2 bill, studying it thoughtfully. What had started as a simple interaction at a fast food counter had somehow triggered a chain of events that was restoring her father's dignity and her family's stability. That evening, as local news reports announced Steel Corp's decision to bring back jobs, Maria's phone rang again. The White House number appeared on her screen. "The president saw the news about your father," Rebecca Winters said. "He'd still like your family to attend the roundtable next week. But now, he'd like your father to speak about workforce resilience and second chances." As Maria relayed the message to her father, she realized their story was becoming something larger than themselves, a symbol of hope in a town that desperately needed it. News of Carlos Gonzalez's new position at Steel Corp spread quickly through Millville. The local newspaper ran a front-page story with the headline, "Presidential Visit Sparks Economic Revival." While some called it a coincidence, most people in town connected the dots between Trump's McDonald's visit and the sudden change in Steel Corp's approach to the community. At church that Sunday, the Gonzalez family found themselves surrounded by well-wishers. Neighbors who had barely spoken to them before now approached with handshakes and hugs. "Your story gave us hope, Carlos," said Bill Jenkins, another laid-off worker. "If it can happen for you, maybe it can happen for others too." Outside the church, Maria noticed a small crowd gathered around Mayor Wilson. He was speaking animatedly, gesturing toward the old community center building across the street. "What's going on?" Maria asked Mrs. Patel, her former high school math teacher. The mayor's announcing a new job training program, Mrs. Patel explained. Apparently, several business owners in town were inspired by your father's story. They're pooling resources to help other unemployed workers learn new skills. Maria joined the crowd, listening as Mayor Wilson outlined the plan. Starting next month, we'll offer free classes in computer skills, advanced manufacturing, and small business management, the mayor announced. Steel Corp has generously donated equipment, and 5 other local businesses have pledged support. After the announcement, several people approached Maria, sharing their own stories of hardship and renewed hope. An elderly woman pressed a folded note into her hand before walking away. When Maria opened it later, she found a $2 bill inside with a simple message. My husband carried this for luck during the Vietnam War. Now it's my lucky charm, but I think someone else needs its magic more than I do. Please give it to someone who needs hope. That afternoon, as the Gonzalez family ate Sunday dinner, their doorbell rang. Carlos opened the door to find Jenny from McDonald's standing there with a large gift basket. This is from all of us at work, she explained. And there's something else. She handed him an envelope. Inside was a card signed by every McDonald's employee, along with $500 they had collected. We know things are looking up with your new job, Jenny told Carlos. We wanted to help with the weeks you've been without pay. Maria watched her father's eyes fill with tears as he thanked Jenny. His pride had always made it difficult for him to accept help, but now he received it with grace. Later that evening, Maria's phone pinged with an email notification. A local business owner named David Chen had created a scholarship fund for students working their way through college while supporting their families. The Maria Gonzalez Scholarship will provide $5,000 annually to 5 deserving students, the announcement read. Inspired by the dignity and work ethic demonstrated by the Gonzalez family. Maria could hardly believe what she was reading. Mom, Dad, look at this. As her parents read the email, Miguel asked, Does this mean you're famous now, sis? Maria laughed. No, it means something better. It means our story matters. That night, as Maria prepared for bed, she thought about the ripple effects from that single interaction at McDonald's. What had begun as a simple encounter between a president and a cashier had grown into something that touched dozens, perhaps hundreds of lives. She carefully placed the elderly woman's $2 bill in her dresser drawer next to the one Trump had given her. 2 pieces of paper, identical in value but carrying stories that made them priceless. Tomorrow, her father would start his new job. Next week, they would attend the White House roundtable. But tonight, Maria just felt grateful that in a world where people often felt invisible, someone had seen her family's worth, and somehow, that vision had spread throughout an entire community. 6 months had passed since the day Trump handed Maria the $2 bill at McDonald's. Spring had given way to summer, and summer to fall. The maple trees lining Millville's Main Street had turned brilliant shades of red and gold. Maria sat at her desk in the small apartment, working on a college assignment. She was still studying nursing, but thanks to the scholarship bearing her name, she no longer needed to work full-time at McDonald's. She had reduced her hours to weekends only, giving her more time to focus on her education. A knock at the door interrupted her studies. Her mother called from the kitchen, Maria, can you get that? I'm cooking. Maria opened the door to find a courier holding a small package. Delivery for Maria Gonzalez, he said, handing her an envelope. Thank you, she replied, confused. She wasn't expecting any packages. The envelope bore the presidential seal in the corner. Maria's heart beat faster as she carefully opened it. Inside was a familiar $2 bill, the same one Trump had given her months ago. She recognized the small ink mark in the corner. Along with it was a handwritten note on White House stationery. Maria, I requested that my staff track down this $2 bill. It found its way back to me through several hands. I believe it belongs with you as a reminder of how a small moment can change many lives. Keep it, or pass it on as you see fit. Either way, know that your family's story has inspired many Americans, including me, Donald J. Trump. Maria showed the note to her parents, who stood amazed at this personal gesture from the President of the United States. How did he find the exact same bill? Her mother wondered. Maria shook her head. I don't know. Maybe someone recognized it. Carlos, now dressed in business casual attire rather than his old work clothes, studied the bill. What will you do with it now? Maria thought for a moment. I think I'll frame it, along with both notes and a picture from that day. Not because it's from the president, but because it marks the beginning of something important. Later that week, Maria attended the grand opening of Millville's revitalized community center. The building that had once stood nearly empty now buzzed with activity. Job training classes were filled to capacity. A new daycare center allowed parents to attend classes while their children were cared for nearby. Mayor Wilson spotted Maria and waved her over to where he stood with several business leaders, including Richard Harmon from Steel Corp. Everyone, you know Maria Gonzalez, the mayor said. The young woman whose encounter with President Trump sparked our community's revival. Maria blushed at the attention. I just served him a burger, she said modestly. Sometimes the smallest actions have the largest impacts, Harmon replied. Your family's story reminded us all that behind every layoff statistic is a real person, a real family. After the ceremony, Maria walked home through the town park. She stopped at a bench overlooking the river and took out a small frame from her bag. Inside was the $2 bill, the notes, and a photo the McDonald's manager had taken of her with Trump. A young woman about Maria's age sat down nearby, looking dejected. Maria recognized her from nursing school, Jessica, a single mother struggling to balance childcare, work, and studies. Jessica, are you okay? Maria asked. Jessica looked up, wiping away tears. Just a rough day. My car broke down, and I can't afford repairs. Without it, I can't get to my night job. Without the job, I can't pay for school. Maria studied the framed bill in her hands, then looked back at Jessica. She carefully opened the frame and removed the $2 bill. I want to tell you a story, Maria said, sitting beside Jessica, about how sometimes help comes from unexpected places and how we all get a chance to pass it on. As she placed the bill in Jessica's hand, Maria felt the circle complete itself, one small gesture flowing outward, touching life after life, creating ripples of hope that would continue long after the original story was forgotten.